All right, listeners, ready for a deep dive today. We've got a stack of articles here all about comparing these two AI language models. Everybody's talking about GPT 4.5 from OpenAI and Claude 3.7 Sonnet from Anthropic.
Yeah, and it seems like everybody's trying to figure out, which one is better.
Right, like, is this the AI showdown of the century?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of folks are curious, if they're thinking about using AI in their work or just, want to stay on top of the latest tech, like which one should they be paying attention to?
Totally. And what's so cool is like these articles you sent, they don't just pit them against each other. Like it's not just a versus battle.
Right. It's more nuanced than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really dives into like these are two totally different approaches to how AI can think and learn and create.
Except like two different schools of thought
It's
almost.
like choosing between, a brilliant conversationalist and like a super powered logician and figuring out when each one shines.
Perfect analogy.
So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, first, we got to lay some groundwork. We're talking about large language models here.
Right, which is a term I feel like I'm hearing everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's basically the foundation of this whole AI language revolution.
Mm.
And essentially, these models, they're trained on massive amounts of text data,
Like all the books and articles and websites, like the entire internet.
pretty much.
Okay.
And the idea is they learn to understand and generate human-like language based on all this data.
So it's like the reading everything humans have ever written and then learning to write like us.
Exactly. It's like having a supercharged writing assistant, but with the potential to do so much more than just, write emails or articles.
Okay, so large language models got it, but then I keep seeing GPT 4.5 being described as all about conversation. What does that even mean for an AI?
Well, it means OpenAI. They've really focused on making those interactions with the AI feel natural and smooth.
Right, like you're having a back and forth with an actual person.
Exactly. And one of the articles even quotes OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, describing it as, it feels like you're talking to a thinking person.
I mean, I've played around with some of these AI chatbots, and it is kind of freaky how human they can sound.
It really is like you're not just getting, canned responses or
Right.
keyword matches. It feels like the AI is actually understanding what you're saying and responding in a thoughtful way.
Okay, but now I'm sensing a but coming because we also have Claude 3.7 Sonnet in the mix, and it seems like it's not as concerned with being chatty.
Right, and that's where that key difference comes in Anthropic.
Yeah.
The company behind Claude 3.7 Sonnet, they've taken a different approach. They call it hybrid reasoning.
Hybrid reasoning.
Okay.
Break that down for me.
So think of it like the AI can switch gears between two modes. It can give you quick, intuitive answers like you'd expect from a chatbot.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it can also shift into this deeper, more methodical thought process where it breaks down complex problems step by step.
So it's like GPT 4.5 is the friend who always has the perfect witty comeback ready, and Claude 3.7 Sonnet is more the friend who can, like, explain quantum physics while also baking a cake.
I love that analogy. It's perfect because that ability to switch between modes is what lets Claude 3.7 Sonnet excel in things like coding and logic puzzles.
Yeah, speaking of coding, I remember one of the articles highlighted how Claude 3.7 just crushed some coding benchmark. What was that all about?
Right, they were talking about its performance on the SWE benchmark. It's basically a test to see how well an AI can understand and write code. And Claude 3.7 Sonnet scored a whopping 62.3% accuracy.
Okay, that sounds impressive.
It is, especially considering that OpenAI's model only managed 49.3% on the same test.
Wow. Okay, so does this mean if I need to build an app, I should just ditch the human developers and go straight to Claude 3.7?
Well, not quite. Remember, each model has its strengths and weaknesses. It's not as simple as one being better than the other.
Right, it's back to that toolbox analogy, picking the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And while Claude 3.7 might excel in coding, GPT 4.5 might be the better choice if you need to generate creative content like a story or a poem.
Okay, so it's all about figuring out what you need the AI to do and then picking the model that's best suited for that task.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, by understanding these strengths and weaknesses, we can start to see beyond the hype and appreciate how these models fit into the bigger picture of AI development.
All right, you've definitely piqued my curiosity about this bigger picture. But before we go there, I'm curious, did these articles touch on how accessible these models are? Like, can anyone just start playing around with them?
Yeah, that's actually a key point they bring up. There's some big differences in pricing and accessibility.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, get this Claude 3.7 Sonnet. They actually offer a free tier.
Wait, seriously, free AI that can code and do all that fancy reasoning stuff?
Yep, so anyone can just jump in and start experimenting with
Yeah.
it. They also have a pro option for $20 a month, which gives you access to enhanced features.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And what about GPT 4.5?
GPT 4.5 is tied to OpenAI's subscription model, so there's a cost barrier to entry there.
So we've got one that's free to try and another that's behind a paywall. This is already way more nuanced than just, which AI is smarter.
Totally. And it leads us to some even bigger questions about, the future of AI, its impact on society,
Yeah.
and the choices we make as developers and users.
Okay, the plot thickens. I am ready to dive into that bigger picture. You keep mentioning, let's do it. All right, so we've got these two AI powerhouses, but you keep hinting in this bigger picture. What's that all about?
Well, going through these articles got me thinking it's not just about what these models can do.
Yeah.
It's about what their development represents, like two different visions almost,
Right.
for how AI fits into our world.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So on one hand, you've got GPT 4.5 striving for that seamless, human-like conversation. Like it wants to be the ultimate communication tool,
Yeah.
the one we use for everything. Writing, brainstorming, even just shooting the breeze.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, imagine having an AI that can, help you write a killer presentation and then turn around and, help you practice it, giving you feedback and bouncing ideas off of.
Exactly. It's blurring the lines between human and machine interaction.
Whoa,
And that raises some interesting questions about how we'll communicate and form relationships in the future.
that's getting pretty deep. But
Yeah.
what about Claude 3.7 Sonnet? Where does it fit into this grand scheme of things?
Well, with its hybrid reasoning, Claude 3.7 Sonnet seems more geared towards tackling those complex logical challenges.
Ah.
The articles highlighted its potential in fields like scientific research or data analysis, where that step-by-step thinking is crucial.
So if GPT 4.5 is like having a super smart assistant by your side, Claude 3.7 Sonnet is more like a powerful research partner.
I like that. It's like
Hmm.
two different paths for AI. One integrating seamlessly into our daily lives, the other augmenting our capabilities to solve those really complex problems.
It makes you wonder what kind of impact these two paths could have on different industries, right? Like I could see GPT 4.5 revolutionizing customer service, while Claude 3.7 Sonnet could be a game changer for medical diagnoses.
Exactly. But, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are some challenges and potential downsides we need to consider, too.
Like what kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there's the issue of accessibility, as we discussed. Claude 3.7 Sonnet has that free tier, making it available to a wider audience. But GPT 4.5 is behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And one of the articles argued that this could create a divide where only those who can afford it have access to the most powerful AI tools.
That's a really good point. It's like any new technology, there's a risk that it could widen existing inequalities.
Right. And that's something we need to be mindful of as AI continues to develop. It's not enough to just create these amazing tools we have to think about how they'll be used and who will benefit.
Okay, so accessibility is one challenge.
Mhm.
What else should we be thinking about?
Well, another big one is the potential for misuse. These models are incredibly powerful.
Right.
And there's always a risk that they could be used for malicious purposes, like spreading misinformation or creating deep fakes.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. It's like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations about the ethical implications of AI.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about safeguards and regulations to ensure these tools are used responsibly.
So it's not just on the developers to think about this stuff, right? It's on all of us users, policymakers, everyone.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
We need to be having these discussions now before these technologies become even more widespread.
Okay, you've given us a lot to think about, but before we get too bogged down in the doom and gloom, let's remember the incredible potential these models hold.
You're right. It's not all about risks and challenges. There are some truly mind-blowing possibilities here.
Like what? Give me some of that AI optimism.
Well, imagine a world where AI can help us solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, like climate change or poverty.
Okay, yeah.
Or think about the advancements we could make in healthcare, with AI helping doctors diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately.
Or how about AI personalizing education, tailoring lessons to each student's individual needs and learning styles?
Exactly. The possibilities are practically endless. But it's up to us to ensure these technologies are used for good and that the benefits are shared by everyone.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind with both the potential and the challenges. But, I keep coming back to this idea of these two different paths for AI. It feels like a crucial choice point.
You're hitting on something really important. Are we going to prioritize AI that seamlessly integrates into our lives,
Mhm.
or AI that pushes the boundaries of what's possible, even if it means more specialized applications?
Yeah, and which path will lead to a better future? It's like we're standing at a fork in the road, and the choices we make now will have a huge impact down the line.
And that's what makes these articles so fascinating. They're not just about comparing two AI models. They're forcing us to think deeply about the future we want to create with this technology.
So, after all this deep diving, what's the main takeaway for our listener who's been patiently absorbing all of this?
I think the key is to remember that AI is not some monolithic force. It's a collection of tools and technologies that are being developed and used in different ways, and it's up to all of us to be informed, engaged, and to make sure AI is used for the benefit of humanity.
Wow. Okay. So we've really gone deep on these AI models, almost like we've upgraded our own brains with all this knowledge. So, for our listener who's been hanging with us through all this, what are the key takeaways here? What do we want them to remember?
Well, I think, the big one is it's not about picking a winner, right? Like you said, it's not a versus battle between these models.
Right. We're not crowning an AI champion.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that these different approaches exist, each with its own strengths and limitations. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah. It's like figuring out which tool is best suited for the job, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, it's about realizing that AI isn't some far-off thing anymore.
Right. It's here.
It's here. It's evolving rapidly, and it's going to impact all of our lives in a big way.
The future is now. But, thinking back to all the things we discussed about these two models, I'm curious, which one would you personally be more excited to work with or explore further?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's like asking me to pick a favorite child.
Right.
Honestly, both models offer something incredibly compelling. GPT 4.5 with its conversational style. I can totally see how that could change how we interact with technology in a really fundamental way.
Right. Like imagine having an AI that can help you write a speech or just brainstorm ideas for a project. It'd be like having a super smart collaborator always there at your fingertips.
Exactly. But then you have Claude 3.7 Sonnet with its ability to switch between quick thinking and that deep logical reasoning. And that has huge potential for solving complex problems that have stumped humans for, centuries.
Yeah, like finding cures for diseases or developing sustainable energy solutions. It's almost like we're getting a peek into two possible futures for AI, and they're both equally mind-blowing.
And that's what makes this feel so exciting. We're just at the beginning of this journey, and who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner.
So for our listener who's been following along, absorbing all this AI goodness, what's the one question we want to leave them with something to ponder, maybe over their morning coffee?
I think the most thought-provoking question is this. If you had the chance to have a conversation with either GPT 4.5 or Claude 3.7 Sonnet, knowing what you now know about their strengths and approaches, which one would you choose?
Ooh, I love that. Because it's not just about which one is quote unquote better. It's about, what kind of AI interaction are we drawn to? What kind of potential do we see in each model?
And that choice, I think it reflects something about our own hopes and maybe even fears about the role of AI in our lives.
It really does. And honestly, I think that's a perfect note to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree. It's been a fascinating exploration, and like we said, we've just barely scratched the surface of this incredibly complex and rapidly evolving field.
So to our listener, thank you for diving in with us. We hope you've gained some new insights into the world of AI and the different paths it might take.
And remember, the future of AI is something we're all shaping together, so keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those fascinating articles coming.
We'll be here, ready to dive into whatever you throw our way, right here on the deep dive. Until next time.